After the breakup ceremony was over, I lit a cigarette. My girlfriend insisted on breaking up with me. I actually felt a bit reluctant. After all, someone whose toes you can't see when she lowers her head. That's a true beauty of the mortal world. The quilt still carried her lingering warmth. I sighed softly and spoke slowly. Do you know that Prometheus stole fire and gave it to mankind? My girlfriend looked utterly confused. I said, since we've broken up, can you at least introduce me to your best friend? Chapter 1. Just now, Willow told me she wanted to break up. She thought I would behave like her previous simps, clinging on, crying, begging her not to leave. So, she had already prepared her responses. But when I opened my mouth and said that sentence, Willow froze in place, her face full of question marks, as if doubting whether she had misheard me. Her beautiful eyes widened in shock. She bit her lip and asked, "What did you say?" I said. I repeated slowly, trying to sound sincere rather than mocking. "Since we're done, can't you at least, for old time's sake, introduce me to another girlfriend? My standards aren't high, just someone with big boobs and no brains like you." The room instantly fell into a strange silence. "Is that okay?" I tried to break the stillness. Willow's chest rose and fell a few times, as though laughing angrily. Her eyes flashed with fury as she said, "George, I didn't realize it before. Turns out you're that kind of man. Seems I underestimated you. Not much to look at, but full of wild fantasies." I shook my head, stood up, and pulled her into my arms. Leaning close to her ear, my voice low and magnetic, I whispered, "Willow, love shouldn't end in insults and curses. If there's no love left, then don't cause harm. My worth speaks for itself. Surely you won't stop me from reaching someone better than you." Willow was speechless. She shoved me away with disdain, brushing off her clothes. Her expression shifted from shock to pure contempt. She stepped back, as though cutting ties completely. She said coldly, "George, you disgust me." I closed in again, pressing my body against hers, lowered my head, my palm brushing across her cheek, landing on her chin. Trying to steal a kiss, she quickly turned away, her eyes full of disdain. As if looking at garbage, I ignored it, hugging her tightly, and gently kissed her earlobe. Just a fleeting touch, light as a dragonfly skimming the water. I said with deep affection, "Willow, I'll always be waiting for you." Willow froze, her face suddenly flushed, though her gaze remained icy. I stroked her hair again and reminded her, "Waiting for your good news." Willow jerked free from my arms, raised her hand, ready to slap me, but I caught it in time. "Get out." She pointed toward the door, her chest heaving. "Just seeing you makes me want to vomit." I smirked, then turned and walked toward the bed, calmly slipped on my boxer shorts. From the moment Willow brought up the breakup, our relationship had ended. The angrier she became, the more it proved my reaction hit her where it hurt. She had been expecting my misery and desperation, not this carefree attitude. Heh, too bad for her. Once dressed, I smiled and nodded at her, then opened the door and walked out without looking back. "Wait." Willow's voice didn't make me stop. With my hands in my pockets, I only left her with the sight of my handsome back. Since it's over, there's no turning back. Chapter 2. I hadn't walked far. A red Ferrari pulled up beside me. The window rolled down. A pure, innocent yet seductive face appeared. It was Sophia, Willow's cousin. She waved at me with a faint smile. "Hop in." I opened the door and sat in the passenger seat. A sweet citrus fragrance immediately enveloped me. Sophia gripped the steering wheel with her left hand. On the side closest to me, her milky white knitted cardigan slipped slightly, revealing a light blue strap and her delicate collarbone. She gently pressed the accelerator, the car gliding smoothly onto the road. Her tone was cheerful. "George, why don't you give it a try with me instead?" She blinked playfully, her lips curved in a smile. I replied, "Sure." So fast, Willow really worked quickly, already sending her cousin my way. The adult world runs at this kind of speed. 10 minutes later, the car stopped in front of a hotel. After getting out, I smiled as I took her bag, then proactively wrapped an arm around her waist, lowered my head, my gentle gaze locking on her. Sophia froze for a moment, frowned slightly as my lips drew near, then squeezed her eyes shut. But just as our lips were about to touch, she suddenly opened her eyes and pushed me away. I let go, stepping back, catching sight of the disdain in her eyes. Just as Willow had said, I wasn't much to look at. While Willow and Sophia, both pale-skinned beauties with long legs, one could make fish sink and birds fall, the other could outshine the moon and put flowers to shame. They were renowned local rich beauties of Shanghai. Their looks, figures, and family background were things most people could only look up to. Since childhood, they had been surrounded by endless admirers, so of course, by all logic, they would look down on someone like me, an unimpressive poor nobody. But Willow still chose to be with me, and Sophia even rushed forward to try me out. The The reason was obvious: my innate hard strength and the unyielding stamina honed from years of training at the gym. As for how Willow met me, it happened right after her ex-boyfriend broke up with her and went abroad, leaving her heartbroken. While drinking, I accidentally walked into the wrong private room. She threw herself into my arms, sobbing, and begged me to be her boyfriend. Seeing her voluptuous figure and alluring features, of course I didn't refuse. I knew I was merely a tool she used to numb her pain. But so what? Damn it, I didn't care. I just pretended not to notice. After all, she was a young, beautiful, rich girl. She didn't need me to spend money. On the contrary, she showered me with endless gifts and pocket money. After 6 months of dating, Willow finally couldn't take it anymore. That was something I had expected from the start. After all, as the saying goes, give someone a pint of rice and it feels like kindness. Give a bushel, and they'll resent you. When charity becomes routine, flaws become unbearable. My thoughts returned, just as I was holding Sophia and about to step into the elevator. She suddenly turned back with a look of disgust and said, "I can't even bring myself to kiss you. How about we just break up?" I was speechless. As expected of cousins, she was even harsher than her sister. At least her sister had the decency to enjoy herself first. Before saying, "I can't accept this, let's break up," I nodded, hands in my pockets, and said calmly, "Do you know the story of Prometheus stealing fire for mankind?" Sophia looked completely baffled. I said, "Fine, we can break up, but at least introduce me to one of your besties, big boobs and rich. That's the requirement." Sophia was speechless. She rolled her eyes and said, "You really are exactly like my cousin described, an obnoxious man. Jumping seamlessly from one girl to another is scummy enough. And now you want your ex-girlfriend to introduce you to someone else? How repressed can you be?" I shrugged indifferently, but my eyes stayed serious, fixed straight on her. Our gazes locked for a moment. Then Sophia gave me a contemptuous glance, pulled out her phone, and tapped a few times. She said, "Fine, if you're not afraid of embarrassing yourself, I'll line up a few girlfriends for you. They're conveniently single right now. Let's see if you've got what it takes." Her eyes glinted with mockery, as if waiting to watch me make a fool of myself. After that, she got back into the car. Chapter 3. The car drove toward the suburbs, arriving at a private villa. After getting out, she naturally tried to link her arm through mine. I stopped her just in time. Sophia froze for a moment, confusion flashing across her face. I raised my hand and said, "Since we already broke up, we should keep some distance. I don't want my future girlfriend to misunderstand." Sophia's expression instantly turned cold. She pulled her hand back with a mocking laugh. "What are you pretending for? Nothing's even happened yet, and you're already putting on airs. How self-deluded." With that, she ignored me and walked straight toward the villa's entrance, muttering under her breath as she went. She snorted, "How ridiculous. What a joke. Really thinks he's something." I only shrugged silently, grinning as I followed behind her. In my mind, I put a tag next to Sophia's name, just like I did with Willow. Both recorded. Willow, 6 months of dating. Arrogant, willful, afraid of pain, prone to tears. Sophia, 30 minutes of dating. Strange temper, other traits unknown. Well then, I could now say I'd dated both sisters. I followed Sophia into the villa. The interior was lavish, in full European style. In the tall, bright hall, a whole row of beautiful women was already seated. At a glance, nothing but legs. Every one of them was immaculately made up, fashionably dressed. Their expressions carried the unique pride and scrutiny of rich girls. Their eyes scanned me like searchlights, and soon revealed undisguised disappointment and contempt. A few whispered to each other, snickering, "Your husband." Another immediately replied, "Your husband." The first one echoed back, "Your husband, your husband, your husband." Who would have thought I had suddenly become so in demand? Good thing I wasn't that easy. I pressed down a smirk, keeping a calm face, and swept the scene with an appreciative gaze. It was a feast for the eyes, different styles of beauty, dazzling all at once. Finally, my gaze lingered on a lazy figure, for no other reason than this. She'd had a wardrobe slip, a glimpse under her short skirt, pink, very cute. Who wouldn't be tempted? She was lying sideways on half a couch, back turned to me, playing with her phone. Her long, pale legs swung idly in the air. When I entered, she merely glanced at me lazily, then returned to scrolling her phone, as if I wasn't worth her attention. Perfect. Exactly the type I wanted to try. Sophia waved her hand in front of me, snapping me out of my thoughts. I brushed her hand away impatiently, then looked back at that girl. Pretty, right? Sophia's voice dripped with mockery. Yeah. I grinned foolishly, nodding. She bit her lip. "Keep staring and I'll gouge your eyes out." With that, Sophia stormed over, yanking the girl's skirt back into place. The next second, a voice rang out. Alicia, still glued to your phone. Didn't even notice you flashed everyone. You're a grown woman now. Have some decency. That creep was staring right at you, and you didn't even realize. It was Willow. I hadn't expected her to show up here too, Sophia said. Exactly. I half suspect you were deliberately trying to seduce George. Then just let him be your boyfriend. As she spoke, Sophia gave Alicia's thigh a few hard pats, leaving several faint red marks. It made my skin tingle with anticipation. Alicia was scrolling through web pages and didn't get angry at their teasing. She slowly sat up and locked her phone screen. Her gaze finally landed on me. She sized me up for a few seconds. Her eyes showed no particular emotion, neither disgust nor interest, as if looking at an unimportant ornament. She said, "Him?" she asked casually. "As my boyfriend." Sophia covered her mouth and laughed so hard she trembled, teasing, "Yeah, don't like him." Alicia didn't answer. She leaned back on the sofa lazily, just beckoning me over with a curl of her finger, her look playful and appraising. She said, "Boyfriend, what are you waiting for? Come on over. Don't tell me you look down on me. Am I really that unpresentable?" I was over the moon. I bent at the waist and jogged over, sitting down beside her, slipping an arm around her waist. I even took the chance to give her a pinch. Damn, the feel was superb. As the old saying goes, better to die under a peony and still be charming. Alicia awkwardly dodged but, glancing sideways at me, kept her composure. She picked her phone up and started scrolling again. Laughter and jeers rippled around us. Someone sneered, "Sis, did this guy save your life or something?" "Shut up, Alicia's really picky. She's desperate enough to take him." I ignored them, still smiling as I held Alicia, focusing all my attention on her. After all, she was my new girlfriend now. Her eyelashes fluttered. Cute. I couldn't help planting a kiss on her cheek. "Baby, you're so cute," I said. Alicia was taken aback by the kiss. Her phone nearly slipped. She wiped her cheek, her expression odd but she didn't blow up. More laughter and hooting echoed around us. Willow bit her lip and said, "George, broke up and already found someone else. You really do seamless transition." "Huh?" Willow glared at me. Her contempt deepened. Sophia piled on, "Alicia, you should call me senior. He first seamlessly slid from me, then seamlessly slid to you." Alicia finally put her phone down and twisted her arm in mine. "Damn, that must feel thrilling when it happens." She raised an eyebrow as if to say something, but after scanning her sister's expressions she couldn't help but smile. She snuggled against my chest and adjusted into a more comfortable position, like a obedient little cat. She said, "You're George, right? From now on you stick with me." I smiled, bowed my head, and said respectfully, "Yes, milady." Willow snorted and turned her face away, clearly finding the scene ridiculous and annoying. Sophia puckered her lips and muttered a few words under her breath. Chapter 4. In the days that followed, I really did start hanging around with Alicia. I became her little follower, her sidekick. She didn't seem to truly treat me as a boyfriend. Instead, I was more like free labor at her beck and call. When she went shopping, I trailed behind carrying her bags. When she had afternoon tea with her friends, I sat at the side, shelling nuts and handing her tissues. When she went clubbing at night, I stayed by her booth seat, blocking the advances of men she wasn't interested in. On the fifth night, Alicia came out of the nightclub slightly tipsy. I drove her back to her place. She asked me, "Am I beautiful?" I looked down at her and smiled. Reaching out, I gently tucked back a loose strand of hair by her temple, the motion natural and intimate. I said, "A woman whose toes can't be seen when she bows her head, she's the rarest beauty on earth. You're the most stunning I've ever seen." My answer was blunt yet sincere. "Kiss me," she said, her tone carrying both provocation and a hint of testing. A few seconds later, I lowered my head and captured her lips accurately. At first, Alicia was stiff, but soon she softened, even responding with an inexperienced eagerness. Alcohol and atmosphere blended into the perfect catalyst. When the kiss finally ended, her breathing was unsteady, her cheeks flushed crimson. She pushed me away lightly, not with real force, more symbolic than anything, like a butterfly tasting nectar, like a bee probing the heart of a flower. She underestimated my T-Rex, and I overestimated her technique. As the ancients said, when spring arrives, blossoms flaunt their colors. With a swaying willow waist, the flower's heart unfolds, and dewdrops glisten on the peony as it blooms. And so we matched poetry all through the night. The first rays of morning sunlight arrived. The rising sun cast its glow over the ruins left from the night's great battle, making them appear especially imposing. Alicia's first reaction upon waking was shock, followed by a sharp intake of breath. When she sat up, she clearly felt discomfort. Her arrogance from last night completely vanished. She gave me a kick, not hard. "Hey." I opened my eyes, clear and bright. I had been awake all along. I said, "Good morning, milady. How do you feel?" Her voice was hoarse. Are you some kind of beast? Yet I leaned in with energy, face full of apologetic sincerity, saying, I'll be careful next time, but my voice still carried a restless eagerness. Alicia quickly pulled the blanket tightly around herself. There won't be a next time, she glared. Though her tone lacked force, the next second, I rolled over and pinned her again. Breakfast was cream puffs from the bakery paired with local German-style sausages. After eating, Alicia, still angry, said, I really can't take this anymore, I'm breaking up with you. Having enjoyed herself, she then disowned me. As if afraid I'd cling to her, tossed 50,000 yuan on the table, and turned to leave. I quickly stopped her. I said, do you know the story of Prometheus stealing fire for mankind? Alicia looked utterly baffled. I said, breaking up is fine, but you need to introduce me to one of your girlfriends. Alicia froze mid-step, straining her thigh, and let out an ah in pain. She turned sideways awkwardly, her expression shifting instantly from anger to sheer disbelief, as if she'd just heard the most absurd joke. She laughed bitterly and said, George, are you insane? Asking me to set you up with another woman? I curled my lips into a grin and nodded. Yep, I want one who's busty, rich, and knows how to play. Alicia stared at me for a few seconds, rubbing her sore waist. Her eyes shifted to a mocking amusement. She said, fine, you just want someone who'll play you to death, right? Wait and see. I nodded with satisfaction. All right then, I'll wait for you. Alicia swung her bag over her shoulder and stormed toward the door, but after a few steps, she suddenly stopped. Wait a minute, this is my place. Why am I leaving? George, get out of my house. Fuming, Alicia kicked me out of her apartment. Standing in the hallway, I could still hear her unsteady footsteps after the door locked. I glanced at the plastic bag with 50,000 yuan inside, wondering which bank I should deposit it in. Alicia, relationship duration, 5 days and 8 hours. Sensitive constitution. First experience, excellent. Chapter 5. Seria. From an ethnic minority, and even of mixed blood, she was a lively, cheerful girl, a true anime beauty. Being with her was like taking care of a little sister. We played video games together every day, sometimes for the whole day. Too bad she was terrible at playing, most of the time. I couldn't even carry her. I loved watching her every time she lost, throwing little tantrums, because when she got angry, she looked like a kitten, so cute, with starry eyes. She said to me, Oni-chan, hurry, the final strike. Before she even finished speaking, I unleashed my combo and cut down the enemy boss. Her pouting lips immediately curled into a wide smile. She even showed a pair of tiny fangs. She shouted, we won. With a joyful cry, Seria dropped her controller and threw herself at me, hugging my neck. She said, Oni-chan, you're amazing. Her body carried a faint milky scent. Smiling, I caught her and ruffled her hair. She was so adorable that I couldn't help but kiss her. That was Seria, clear voice, soft body, easy to conquer. Beneath me, she laughed out loud, hugged my head, and kissed me back. After a few moments of passionate kissing, her cheeks flushed crimson. I couldn't help but swallow hard just looking at her. She shook her head and said, no, we can't do bad things. You have to learn self-control. I pouted, pretending to be disappointed. She laughed even harder, wrapping her legs around my waist. Her twin ponytails were like magic, as if they made my attack speed faster. Outside, the wind chime swayed with the rhythm, producing a pleasant sound. When we finally finished, I was ready to go again. Seria lay limp on the tatami, but even with her last bit of strength, she rejected me again. She said, I'm sorry I couldn't satisfy Oni-chan. With you by my side, I could stay at home for a whole year without ever going out. And so, we spent 2 straight weeks shut inside together, until, after her friend's persistent invitations, we finally left that sealed room and went to a private villa by the sea. The whole beach was filled with bright, dazzling figures, handsome men and beautiful women. As soon as I walked closer, every gaze turned to me, but no matter what they were thinking, my attention was only on Seria. I held her hand and kept her by my side. Just as we were about to get affectionate, a familiar figure appeared. I couldn't believe it. My ex-girlfriends were there too. Each of them came along with a handsome guy. It had been a long time since I'd seen them, but they were just as stunning as ever. Their bikinis highlighted their perfect bodies. The man next to Willow looked me over provocatively. He sneered and said, what the hell? This is your ex-boyfriend. That's hilarious. This is a rich people's area. Don't you know delivery boys aren't allowed in? His voice was so loud it drew the curious stares of everyone around. The men with Sophia chimed in too. Now even losers like this can mix in with our circle. What rotten luck. Willow and Sophia didn't say a word. They just stared at me, the corners of their lips curved in mocking smiles, as if enjoying the show. Alicia, however, wasn't with anyone. She lay alone on a lounge chair not far away, From beneath her sunglasses, her gaze also seemed to sweep toward me. I just chuckled and said, "This place is nice. Saria, come on. I've got a bold idea." With that, I grabbed Saria's hand and walked away without caring about the others. Her cheeks flushed red. She playfully punched me and clung shyly to my arm, following behind me. The others were stunned, frozen in place. They couldn't believe my head was filled with nothing but dirty thoughts. But come on. Time was short and the mission important. What good would it do to butt heads with them now? They were all rich and handsome. If I got into trouble with them and upset Saria, it would all be a loss. Chapter 6. Later, the seawater reached up to my calves. A little chilly. Saria pressed close to me and whispered, "Big brother, they're so annoying." I squeezed her hand and said, "Just treat them as nothing more than background." We swam for a while, then built sandcastles on the beach. Saria soon forgot her unhappiness and laughed carefreely. At that moment, someone else walked over, interrupting us rudely. She said, "Saria, are you done yet? It's been almost a month. Why haven't you broken up with him?" She folded her arms across her chest, looking down at me with condescension, her eyes scanning me up and down. She said, "Saria, it's about time you ended it. Right, next, it should be my turn." Saria didn't answer, only kept squatting on the ground, building her castle. I patted Saria on the back and curiously raised my head to observe the newcomer. She wore a leopard print bikini, her dyed red hair full of wildness. She looked like one of those rebellious bad girls you often see in movies. I knew her name was Maria, also part of this circle. I'd heard that back in school she really was that kind of delinquent. And she had always looked after Saria, from what she said. Once Saria and I broke up, she'd be next in line to be introduced to me. Perfect. Another chance to experience a different kind of charm. A qualified man should always dare to climb new mountains. That evening, a bonfire was lit on the beach. The men gathered around the grill, carefully preparing food. The women held wine glasses, chatting elegantly. I had to admit, Willow and Sophia's boyfriends really had some skill. The barbecue smelled amazing. They kept trying to please them, personally offering each dish once it was done. But those two women seemed intent on affecting my mood, always circling around me deliberately. Sophia said, "Honestly, no one eats your barbecue, and it tastes awful." Willow added, "That just makes it worse. Look, even your girlfriend doesn't want to eat it." A few others nearby teased, "Sophia, why even bother talking to him?" I didn't pay them any attention. Even if they claimed my cooking was terrible, it didn't matter. I wouldn't give them any just to prove myself. This barbecue was for Saria alone, sprinkled with my secret seasoning. I filled a plate to the brim. Perfect. I carried the plate to Saria, who was busy playing a game. Gently, I picked up a piece of grilled meat and fed it to her. I said, "Here, taste my cooking." Saria opened her mouth and bit into it. Her eyes lit up immediately. She said, "So good, big brother. Your cooking is amazing." Forgetting the game, she ate several pieces in a row straight from my hand. Her cheeks puffed up like a hamster's. I smiled in satisfaction. I said, "If Saria is happy, then I couldn't be more blessed." Saria nodded enthusiastically, her eyes crinkling into little crescent moons. The onlookers who had been expecting a joke lost interest and slowly looked away. Alicia gave me a strange glance, muttering something under her breath. The two sisters set aside the vegetables their boyfriends had grilled for them, their eyes showing a strange expression. Sensing the gaze of my ex-girlfriends, I politely nodded back at them. Then I used a damp towel to wipe the corner of Saria's mouth. Saria suddenly leaned in for a kiss, playfully. She even shared her drink with me through her lips. So what if she was playful? A man should spoil his own girlfriend. "Hey, there are people here. Watch your image." Someone suddenly shouted. Immediately, the crowd began to cheer and jeer. Saria shyly hid in my arms. I lowered my head, leaning close to her ear. As my warm breath brushed against her, Saria trembled slightly. I said, "How about we go back to the room?" Saria gently nodded. She wrapped her arms around my neck, and I lifted her by the waist. Under the gaze of everyone around us, I carried Saria back to the room. At first, Saria wasn't enthusiastic about these things, but after repeated conquests, she eventually fell deeply into it. The blossoming of the crabapple, the breaking of the cherry, morning clouds and evening rains, the chirping of insects at midnight echoed across the land. Saria lay limp in my arms, already asleep. Looking at her delicate face, I couldn't resist planting a soft kiss on her forehead. My stomach growled at the wrong time. No choice. Back during the barbecue I hadn't eaten much, and after such an exhausting battle, my energy was completely spent. I gently slid my hand free and prepared to head out in search of food. Unexpectedly, the beach was still crowded even late at night. Did these people never sleep? I ignored it and went straight to the kitchen. I had just pulled a few pieces of bread from the fridge when someone caught me in the act. I knew her. Her name was Freya. "Oh, isn't this that guy?" she said. You took Saria back early, were you up to no good? As Freya spoke, she curiously sized me up and down. I bit into the bread without replying. Freya stepped closer, lowering her voice. You really are a scumbag. Every time you break up, you immediately find someone new. I honestly don't get what makes you so capable. I kept eating the bread. Suddenly, Freya reached out her hand, but I blocked it immediately. She snorted coldly. So stingy. Then she said, do you even know? Our whole group of girlfriends made a bet on you. We're betting on who can last with you the longest. I swallowed my bite of bread and looked at her in puzzlement. Freya narrowed her eyes, smirking. You didn't actually take it seriously, did you? I smiled too and shook my head. Then I continued eating my bread, looking at her voluptuous figure, enough to make a man finish 3 bowls of rice. Freya saw I only cared about eating and leaned in closer. Hey, I'm talking to you, she said. I swallowed the last mouthful, clapped my hands, and said, whether you bet or not, what does that have to do with me? Freya froze for a moment, then burst into laughter. Interesting. I finished eating, grabbed a bottle of milk, and, right in front of her, turned and walked back to the room. A trace of astonishment flashed across Freya's face. Chapter 7. Just as I stepped out of the kitchen, I ran into the trio of my ex-girlfriends. They crossed their arms and blocked my path. Someone said, out wandering in the middle of the night, did Saria kick you out because you didn't satisfy her? Sophia was the first to speak, her tone mocking. Alicia tilted her head, curiously glancing at Sophia and asked, what does satisfy mean? Can that be eaten as food too? I shoved both hands into my pockets, straightened my chest, and said, what does this have to do with you? As for you 3, running to the kitchen in the middle of the night, isn't that proof you're the ones who are really hungry? Let me remind you, I'm your best friend's boyfriend right now. Lusting after your best friend's boyfriend, is that right? Willow snorted coldly. Don't flatter yourself. Sophia's face flushed red. She gritted her teeth and said, I think Saria must be blind. How could she even put her mouth on trash like you? At that, Willow and Alicia immediately turned towards Sophia, looking offended. Alicia's face darkened, and she shoved Sophia. What's wrong with your mouth? Sophia stumbled a step, looking embarrassed. I couldn't be bothered to watch them quarrel. I simply stepped aside and walked past. Behind me, the sounds of their bickering followed. When I returned to the room, Saria was still fast asleep. I lay down gently, and she unconsciously rolled into my arms, mumbling in her dreams, Big brother, stop messing around. The next morning, I was awakened by sunlight. Saria was already awake, lying on my chest, blinking at me. Morning, big brother, she said. She smiled like a mischievous cat, her finger tracing circles on my abs. I asked, hungry? As I ruffled her hair, she replied, hungry. She nodded vigorously, then added, but I'd rather eat something else first. Sure enough, we couldn't avoid a round of morning exercise. By the time we cleaned up and headed out, it was almost noon. Saria affectionately held onto my arm as we left the villa. Everyone was already gathered on the lawn, leisurely drinking tea. Freya was the first to tease. Well, you finally decided to get out of bed. Saria's cheeks turned red, and she hid behind me. At that moment, we bumped right into the trio of ex-girlfriends who had just woken up. We had already spent 3 days vacationing at the seaside villa, but Saria still wasn't satisfied, so we rented another villa and stayed for nearly a month. It was as if Saria had discovered a whole new world, clinging to me, begging me to try all sorts of new things with her. It felt like I had struck gold, until she received a call from home, saying she had to attend a family gathering. She hung up the phone, then threw herself into my arms with a pitiful face. Choking up, she said, Big brother, I have to go home for a few days, so annoying. I patted her head and said, it's fine, I'll wait for you. But she suddenly lifted her head, eyes sparkling. She said, why don't you come home with me? I smiled and shook my head. As what? Your boyfriend? Saria immediately wilted, muttering softly, forget it then, my dad would break your legs. I didn't mind, after all, I had already expected this outcome. When she returned, she brought me a pile of gifts, but what I hadn't expected was, that return marked the end. The cause was simple. Saria's father had learned of my existence. He forced her to cut ties with me. Unsurprisingly, Saria couldn't withstand her family's pressure. Of course, her old man also sent someone with a 20 million check to make me leave Saria, and so, we had no choice but to put an imperfect end to our 2-month relationship. Saria, an anime-loving girl, twin ponytails bouncing with energy, C+ figure, passionate and clingy. Chapter 8. I drove away from the villa in my newly bought luxury car. Behind me followed a van, packed full of the love Saria had once given me. As expected, I ended up with Maria. She was a hot girl, wild, playful, dragging me into another circle, completely different from the girls before. Most of her friends were tattooed, dyed-haired partygoers. Living in nightclubs, playing even wilder, they carried a kind of rhythmic, punctual, inflammation-free healthy beauty. By the third day together, we had already drunk our way through half the city's bars. Finally, in a booth at a private club, she straddled me in front of everyone, kissing me with the taste of whiskey. She said, "I heard you're pretty good." Panting, she let me go, tapping my chest with her finger. I held her by the waist and said, "Why don't you find out?" She really did. Right there in a second-floor suite, without even locking the door. Maria loved thrills. Her movements were wild, shouting in rhythm with the music. When it was over, she slumped on the sofa, lighting a cigarette, eyes still glimmering with heat. Being with Maria was like riding a roller coaster. Her moods came fast and went just as quickly. When happy, she partied all night. When upset, she smashed things and cursed. Most of the time, I just let her be, only venting my own feelings when the moment felt right. By the second week, she wanted me to race motorcycles with her. I flatly refused. After all, most of the female rider accounts I followed barely lasted a year before going silent. I had no desire to die young. Straddling her bike, she yanked off her helmet, glaring at me. What? Chickened out? I've never dated a guy this spineless. I looked at her gently and stopped persuading. That was our first falling out. She revved the throttle twice, then sped off alone, disappearing into the night. I didn't mind. Whether she was happy or not wasn't as important as my life. Situations like that kept happening. And she grew increasingly dissatisfied, constantly nitpicking. She'd even throw breakup threats at me over nothing. "You won't do this. You refuse that. Forget it. Let's just break up." I replied. "Do you know Prometheus once stole fire for mankind?" Maria looked completely confused. I said, "If you want to break up, fine, but you have to introduce me to another of your girlfriends. My standards aren't high. Big chest, rich, fun-loving, and a fool for love." Maria sneered at my proposal. Without replying, she turned, mounted her bike, and with the roar of the engine, vanished into the night. I shrugged and walked away from our little den of indulgence. This relationship was clearly nearing its end. I sold off the gifts from Willow, Alicia, and Saria, added in the pocket money my ex-girlfriends had given me, and bought myself an apartment in a high-end neighborhood. By coincidence, the upstairs neighbor was Sophia. What? Couldn't satisfy Maria, so now you're coming after me? In the narrow elevator, Sophia crossed her arms, staring at me with disdain. She said, "Or is it that you want to sleep with me? Ha, you dog of a man. Keep dreaming." I pressed the button for my floor, not looking at her. She only wanted my attention. Sophia sneered. Her reflection in the elevator doors showed her rolling her eyes. She said, "Quit pretending. Everyone can see through your filthy little thoughts." I still didn't respond, only let out a faint smile. The elevator doors opened. I stepped out. Behind me, Sophia's voice chased after. "Hit the mark, didn't I? Why so silent?" I turned back. To my surprise, she had followed me out, lifting her chin, hands on her hips. Sophia glared at me in displeasure. She snorted coldly. "Stinking man. Ah, not bad. You even bought yourself an apartment." I pulled out the keys to unlock the door. But Sophia Kim grabbed my arm. "What? Not going to invite me in? Afraid I'll find another woman hiding inside?" Straightening my collar, I looked at her hesitantly. I said, "That wouldn't be appropriate. A man and a woman alone." I added, "Miss Kim, please have some self-respect. I'm Maria's boyfriend now. If she misunderstood because of this, it wouldn't be good." I said righteously. "Or is it that you want to seduce me?" "Heh, Miss Kim, wishful thinking." Her face flushed red. She bit her lip. "What nonsense are you spouting?" I said, "Quit pretending. Everyone can see through your filthy little thoughts." Sophia, exasperated, snapped, "I insist on going in. What can you do about it?" I didn't stop her anymore. Instead, I called Maria. As a proper boyfriend, it was best to report things like this to my girlfriend. After a short wait, she didn't answer, so I left her a message. Sophia asked, "What are you doing, standing there at the door?" She raised her chin, staring at me. I sighed, reporting to my girlfriend. "Her best friend is trying to sleep with me." Sophia's face darkened. She reached out, hysterically trying to snatch my phone. "Are you insane? I want to sleep with you." She spat. "You're such a disgusting man. If you even touched me, I'd call the police." Even as she spoke, her eyes swept me up and down. I was about to reply when the call unexpectedly went through. To avoid Sophia grabbing the phone earlier, I had accidentally pressed dial. I curled my lips into a smile and let my eyes roam up and down her figure. I said, "Really? Then what does it mean? You insisting on coming into my place this late at night?" Sophia's expression shifted. She snorted coldly. You disgusting man. Don't flatter yourself." On the other end of the line, something was said. Then the call disconnected. I brushed past Sophia, went inside, and immediately began taking off my clothes. Sophia stood there staring at my back. She stomped her foot on the floor, then turned and stormed out of my apartment. Before she even realized, I slammed the door shut. Furious, Sophia hurled her purse hard against my door, watching through the video doorbell. Seeing Sophia's furious, frustrated face, I couldn't help but laugh. Chapter 9. Maria's call came back 2 hours later. By then, I was already asleep. My phone had stayed on silent all night. When I woke up the next morning, the battery was down to less than a third. Looking at dozens of missed calls and over 100 messages, I fell into thought. The latest message was from Maria, sent just 10 minutes ago. Are you fucking dead? Fine. We're done. I slowly plugged in my phone to charge, then went to the bathroom to shower. Maria loved to play, aside from her variety and enthusiasm. She wasn't really suited to being a girlfriend. I was starting to feel tired. As I came out toweling my hair, the phone rang. It was Maria. George. Maria's sharp voice stabbed my ears. Where the hell were you last night? Why weren't you home? I rubbed my ear, about to reply, when she suddenly said, flatly, forget it. I already know, you didn't touch Sophia last night. I gave a quiet and waited for her to continue. Maria's tone sounded calmer, but the anger still lingered. She said, Sophia told me herself, you didn't let her in. Guess you know your place. Still drying my hair, I walked to the window. I asked, so, are we broken up or not? She said, that's not important. Just get back here now. I need you. Then she hung up. When I drove back, I saw her leaning on her bike, wearing a tight skirt and fishnet stockings, smoking a cigarette. The moment she saw me get out of the car, she tossed her wavy hair to the side, rushed up, and clung to my arm, dragging me inside. Kicking off her heels and hooking her arms around my neck, she murmured, didn't think you really had it in you. The maid sensibly slipped out of the house. I held Maria's hand and said, Maria, stop. We already broke up. Maria sneered, tightening her grip instead. Her eyes hazy. She said, that was just anger talking. Look at you, pimples breaking out. All that fire built up. Let me help you release it. She pushed me onto the sofa and straddled me, her waist grinding wildly as the sofa creaked under us. When it was over, she collapsed against me, sweaty hair sticking to her cheeks. She said, George, you're poison, completely addictive. I just smiled without answering, pressing a kiss to her forehead. Then she got up, gathering her scattered clothes, slipping her dress back on, her tone casual, as if she were talking about the weather. She said, Saria seems to be living nearby now. Why don't we go pay her a visit? Indeed, Saria's place was less than 100 meters away. Arm in arm, Maria led me over. It didn't take long before we arrived at Saria's home. In the living room, Saria sat cross-legged on the carpet, gaming. Snacks and soda piled beside her. Seeing us, she gave a warm greeting, then kept her eyes on the big screen. Maria tugged me down to sit next to her, then deliberately collapsed into my arms. Saria glanced sideways, frowning. Maria rubbed against me on purpose, raising an eyebrow at Saria. Mind if I borrow your ex-boyfriend? Saria's controller clattered as her fingers flew. She snorted, saying nothing. Maria leaned in and kissed me noisily. Saria's game character died. You're going too far. Saria jumped up, hands on her hips, glaring at us. Maria only laughed harder, tracing circles on my chest with her finger. Another round of the game started, its background music buzzing irritatingly. Finding it boring, Maria stretched lazily and said, lame, I'm out. Saria didn't look back, immersed in her game once again. On the way back, our fingers interlaced. Suddenly, Maria pulled a face of disgust and said, look at that dumb gamer look of hers. Bet she's a dead fish in bed too. And you actually dated that kind of internet-addicted girl? You must have been desperate. In my mind, I retorted, even that's better than a delinquent girl who spends every night in clubs like you. I deliberately changed the subject. Let's just head back. Came here so early. I haven't even eaten yet. Not only hadn't I eaten, but after riding with Maria all morning, my stomach had long started growling. Maria didn't reply. She shook off my hand and quickened her pace ahead. Women's moods, truly impossible to figure out. That night, she didn't let me stay over. I knew then our relationship was nearing its end. Maria's patience ran out even faster than I expected. That day, she lifted her skirt and tossed me a bank card loaded with 5 million. She said, I'm bored. Break up. I didn't respond, just nodded, swiftly putting on my clothes. I grabbed the card and was about to leave. Maria stretched out her long, slender leg to block me. She said, leaving just like that? You really are heartless. Curious, I turned my head to look at her, wondering what kind of scene she was playing at now. I lifted the card in my hand and said, we disgusting men are like this, once the pants are on. We walk. Wouldn't dream of bothering you a second longer. Maria almost laughed in anger. She said, fine. Very fine. I was only testing you. But I didn't expect you to be so ruthless. Get lost. Don't let me see you again. If I do, I'll have people beat you every single time. I nodded, pocketed the card, and quickly left her sight. Behind me came the dull thud of a pillow smashing against the door. Maria. Relationship length. 3.5 weeks. Wild and untamed. Took everything and left nothing. Chapter 10. I was starting to feel a little tired. I stopped asking anyone to introduce me to new women. Thinking of how close Sophia lived, I decisively sold that apartment and moved to City C. After settling down, life became much quieter. Here, I found a new girlfriend, 19 years old, just a sophomore in college. On Christmas Day, the pure and sweet Anna shyly handed me a pair of gloves. Her cheeks flushed red. Gio, these are for you. It's cold. I took the gloves, my fingers brushing against her cool hands. I asked, did you make these especially for me? Anna lowered her head, her face growing even redder, her voice barely above a whisper. She said, I was worried your hands would get cold. So cute, I smiled, ruffling her hair. Then left a kiss on her cheek. Anna's shyness was just right, neither too much nor too little. She said, Gio, let's not eat out tonight. I want to eat at your place, please? Her natural charm when acting spoiled was flawless, every drawn-out syllable like feathers brushing against the heart. Seeing her so adorable, I couldn't refuse. I said, all right, what do you want to eat? Gio will cook for you. Anna clung to my arm, pressing her whole body against me. She said, as long as it's made by Gio, I'll love it. Her eyes curved like crescent moons as she smiled. We strolled for a while before finally returning to the car. The whole way, Anna kept sharing little things about campus life, chatting about funny stories in her class. Gio, I miss you even during lectures. I frowned, thinking about me in class. What if you fail your finals? She pouted, tugging at my arm playfully. Then Gio has to tutor me. I laughed. Of course, Gio will teach you with care. She pressed her lips together, whispering, Gio, you're so bad. We stopped at a supermarket, bought groceries, and went straight back to my place. I had thought I'd be cooking for her, but in the end, it was really cooking for her. During the break, she stood up and went into the kitchen. Gio, leave the kitchen to me. I learned a lot from the housekeeper at home, leaning against the doorway. I watched Anna tie on an apron and start bustling around. Just then, my phone rang. I was pulled into a group chat. Scumbag and his exes. I raised an eyebrow, amused, scrolling through the screen. Willow. Sophia. George. Are you out of your mind? Alicia. It wasn't him. I made the group. Saria. Sent a waving kitten emoji. Maria. So where's that bastard hiding now? Freya. Seriously. Alicia. Are you insane? What's this got to do with me? Then Freya quit the group. I typed, ladies, what's the matter? I'm out of town, relaxing. Willow, ha, as if anyone cares where you are. Sophia, disgusting, put your pants on and run. Ha. Saria, big brother, why didn't you invite me to relax with you? We could have gamed together. Sad emoji. Maria, bet he's busy flirting with some new girl again. I sent a photo, Anna and me, JPG. After sending it, I set the phone down, ignoring the flood of new messages popping up. From the kitchen came Anna's humming, her hands fumbling with the wok as the light cast her profile soft and gentle. She called out, Gio, it's almost ready. Turning back to smile at me, a spot of sauce on her nose. She looked so warm in that moment. I walked over, wiped it off with my finger. She leaned into my chest, rubbing against me playfully. Am I good? She asked. Very good. I kissed the top of her head. Dinner was 3 dishes and a soup, simple in appearance, but deliciously fragrant. It was a warm meal. Anna kept piling food onto my plate, barely eating herself, resting her chin in her hand as she watched me. She smiled. Gio, eat more. You need your strength. After dinner, Anna excused herself, saying she smelled of oil and smoke, and went to shower first. I sat on the sofa, finally with time to check my phone. The group chat had exploded. Hundreds of unread messages. Alicia, is that girl even legal? George, do you realize that's a crime? Saria, big brother, this sister isn't as cute as Saria, right? Maria, a dog will always eat shit. I chuckled and typed back. Legal adult, 19. Thanks for the concern. Instantly, the group boiled over. Sophia immediately called. George, how could you be so shameless, going after a young girl like that? You're such trash. Listening to Sophia's raised voice on the other end, I calmly took a sip of water and said, free love, none of your business. If that's all, I'll hang up now. My tone was flat. Sophia seemed caught off guard. then quickly snapped back. You might fool others, but not us. You're just taking advantage of her being young and easy to trick, planning to use her and dump her, right? I let out a soft laugh and replied, Miss Kim, projecting your own thoughts onto others is an illness. You should get that treated. I hung up directly. Messages continued to flood in the group. All angry, except for Saria. I set the phone down, choosing not to reply. The sound of water stopped in the bathroom. Anna came out wrapped in a towel. Her hair dripping, cheeks flushed pink from the steam. Gio, who was calling? She leaned close, carrying the fresh scent of body wash. I said, telemarketer. Pulling her by the waist into my arms, I whispered, don't worry about it. Obediently, she nestled against me, her cheeks burning even redder. Gio. She tilted her head up, eyes shimmering like an innocent fawn. I lowered my head, kissing her forehead. She instinctively lifted her face, pressing a kiss to my lips, clumsy, yet eager. The towel slipped to the floor. The dim lights in the living room set the mood perfectly. The second half began. Chapter 11. Being with Anna was truly joyful and fulfilling. Before graduation, she introduced me to her parents. The two elders seemed to have learned something about my past. They often looked like they wanted to say something, but in the end, they still respected Anna's wishes and agreed to let us be together. The wedding date was set for half a year later. I had no objections. Anna clung to me even more. She seemed to have a peculiar possessiveness, a mix of girlish coyness and a quiet declaration of ownership. My phone wallpaper, my social media profile pictures, all replaced with our photos together. I understood her little schemes and was happy to go along. Before the wedding, I posted the marriage announcement in the group chat. I hoped they would all come to the ceremony. After all, rich beauties wouldn't be stingy with their gifts. The chat fell silent for a few seconds. Then, it exploded. On the wedding day, sure enough, they all came. Whether by coincidence or planning, I didn't know. Except for Saria. Each one handed me a red envelope with 88 million inside. But Saria was different. She gave me a villa worth the equivalent of a small Target. Unexpectedly, even Freya showed up, and she was generous too, gifting me 5 kilograms of gold bars. Seeing how open-handed they were, I specially arranged for them to sit together at one table, right next to the main table. The wedding hall was filled with perfume and fine clothes. That special X's table was so tense it could be wrung like a towel. With Anna on my arm, I toasted them. The women at the table wore different expressions, their eyes sharp as needles, silently pricking me. Saria was the first to speak. Big brother, congratulations on your wedding. Thank you, Saria. I smiled and clinked glasses with her, but the smile on her face instantly collapsed. Her eyes welled with tears. She wanted to say something, but couldn't bring herself to. Pretending not to notice, I smiled and swept my gaze around the table. Willow swirled her champagne glass. Didn't expect it. 3 years of dating, and now you're settling down, Sophia added. Exactly. Why settle so early? Haven't you heard? Joy is better shared than hoarded. Alicia quickly chimed in. I'm the right age now. I can handle it. Let's get back together. Okay. Maria was the most direct. It's not too late to ditch the wedding. Come with me. You can pick any luxury car you want. Freya couldn't resist cutting in. Didn't we agree the next one would be me? How did you skip me? Anna, her arm linked tightly with mine, wore a flawless sweet smile. She said, thank you, sisters, for coming to Gio's and my wedding. Her voice was soft and sweet, but, well, Gio belongs to me now. He appreciates your kindness, but that's all. Then she added with a coy smile, if you really can't let go of Gio, I don't mind if you catch up with him after the wedding. She pursed her lips, feigning innocence. I'm very reasonable, you know. The table fell into a strange silence. Maria couldn't hold it in and blurted out, so disgusting, what a pretentious coquette. I stroked Anna's hair gently and said, there's no pretentious coquette here, only a considerate little sister. Unhappy glances darted back and forth between us. Anna tilted her head, eyes shining innocently, but I loved Gio the most. She looked pure and harmless. Yet the gaze she shot at them brimmed with challenge. Maria snorted through her nose. Scheming vixen, playing her tricks already.